Literacy and Language Team Project with Kristine Gregory and Lori Raisler, featuring The Very Hungry Caterpillar by Eric Carle. Read The Very Hungry, what? Caterpillar, yeah. Okay, let's see. Ooh, what color are these?
This is orange, that is green, this is yellow, and this is purple and blue.
Wow, you're pretty good at your colors, aren't you?
Yeah.
I see your favorite color on this page. Well, yeah, that is kind of pink, so I guess I don't see your favorite color.
Red is on here.
Where do you see red? I see a red dot, but just one.
Get that picture.
That is, yes, we had this discussion. According to Children's Speech and Language Services at cslstherapy.com, semantic language skills refer to an understanding and appropriate use of meaning in single words, phrases, sentences, and even longer units. Semantic language skills include the ability to understand and state labels, recognize and name categorical labels, which is what we're going to see Emily do here, as well as understand and use descriptive words, adjectives and smaller parts and whole items, comprehend and state functions, and recognize words by their definition and define words. There's quite a lot going on there. But in this demonstration, we're going to hear Emily dazzle us with how she knows colors.
Days of the week, days of the week, days of the week, days of the week, days of the week. There's Sunday and there's Monday, there's Tuesday and there's Wednesday, there's Thursday and there's Friday, and then there's Saturday. Days of the week, days of the week, days of the week, days of the week, days of the week. There are 7 days, there are 7 days, there are 7 days in a week. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Now, Emily easily knew the primary colors and, the main crayon colors that we see in the box of 8. But if we were to dive into those colors a little bit more, I would teach her the off colors like lime, beige, rust, indigo, violet. There were several in the Caterpillar book to go through. I would also take the days of the week, like here on this sign, or the one that Jill was holding up, and just show her, just like what Erie was talking about, where a kid would recognize McDonald's. You could put that word with the arches any place and kids would know that. And so that way she would not have to necessarily know the letters of the words and be able to spell them, but she would get where she could easily recognize them. On Thursday, he ate through 4 strawberries.
I didn't get this many.
Yeah, it is. You're going to be that many pretty soon, aren't you? But did he get full? Did he get full on 4 strawberries?
No.
No, he was still hungry. Good grief. I personally think request for repair is the most common way that I correct children. It's just a simple go on with how we're supposed to say something or do something, and we just keep on going without stopping to badger a kid. It's just a simple, easy way to correct the problem, and they smile and they notice, and they usually get it right the next time.
The next linguistic skill we're going to discuss is phonological awareness. And during this lesson, it'll cater to both the pre-symbolic and symbolic children, their reading level. And those within the pre-symbolic group will use the concept of onomatopoeia, except in its written representation, to understand the word pop. And then also we'll introduce the existence of syllables, that words can actually be divvied up by those sounds, and do this while reinforcing what we learned during the semantics lessons. And then the symbolic lessons will include a discussion about figurative language, about idioms, similes, metaphors, that kind of thing. And then also cover the manipulation of phonemes through spoonerisms. Well, in order to discuss phonological awareness, we first have to understand what that means. And phonological awareness exists once a person is able to look beyond a language's essential function as a means of communication and acknowledges its existence as an independent entity that can be analyzed, consciously contemplated, and even discussed. And that's based on our PDF's explanation. So basically, we can hold out the concept of language and look at it as a third person entity here. So we can actually analyze it and see how one word affects another and all that kind of good stuff. This next section will target the pre-symbolic reader for age groups around 3 to 5 years old. And during this time period, they're developing awareness of written words, of syllables, that rhymes exist, alliterations, all that good Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled pepper kind of thing. Phonemes, graphemes, they relate to each other. And on the right here, I can have a chart that shows when those skills begin developing. We're going to take two approaches to target word awareness, and the first method is using expatiation, and this basically is incorporating new information by defining a concept further than previously defined, or embellishing, adding detail. And then the other method will be binary choice. And as a Spanish teacher, I actually use this quite a bit because it can get pretty overwhelming thinking of all the possible answers. So you kind of limit that down and focus on just two. So you provide two answers, and then that lets the student focus, decide which one of those two they feel is correct. As a pre-symbolic child develops phonological awareness, they should start realizing that words exist, that they carry meaning, that when they look at this book filled with all these words, that each of those words have its own specific meaning. So when reading the textbook, it pointed out that if a child has no or even just minimal speech production, the onomatopoeia is a great way to start. I thought that would carry over nicely to a child who is starting to associate words with meaning, that written words have meaning. I'll use the onomatopoeia pop in this example. And I thought that expatiation combined with binary choice would be kind of a good way to focus on that. So I would start with binary choice, giving two options, and then using those options as a way of expatiation to define the concept of what the word pop means in this example. So I would ask, is the caterpillar popping? Is the caterpillar breaking out of his egg? Or is the caterpillar drinking pop? Of course, there's lots of dialects in the States, and some use the word Coke, pop, soda. So obviously this would just work in the regions that use the word pop. But if that applies, then that would help the child associate the word pop as popping out of the egg. And then another association I put on there were the balloons. And so a follow-up question could be, is pointing out, well, wow, why do you think we say balloons pop? What does that mean when you think of the word balloon popping? And that can lead into a nice, fun little discussion. The existence of syllables is the next concept we're going to discuss. And the two methods I chose to do that is phonemic cues along with wait and see. And both of those interplay really well with each other. So phonemic cues is essentially just giving a cue, hinting, giving that first little sound. If they can't think of the word door, you give that, oh, it begins with a D sound to help them think of it. And then wait and see sounds simple. It's often more difficult than it seems, but to take a pause, have that uncomfortable silence for a moment so that the student can actually think through the question and the answers and formalize whatever they want to say. Okay, so another pre-symbolic component of phonological awareness is that syllables actually exist and they can segment words. So we could look at the days of the week, which reinforces what the child learned through the semantic activities. And one way to kind of bring attention to the syllables is by clapping together. So we could initially start off clapping, going, for example, Monday, Tuesday, and then when we get to Saturday, Saturday, and practice it that way. And then we can ask which isn't like the others. And hopefully the student will be able to conclude that, oh, yep, Saturday was different. It took 3 claps, Saturday, opposed to 2 like all the others, Monday, Tuesday. Then we can use phonemic cues along with the wait and see method to review that with the student. So for example, I could provide the first word, mun, and then cue the child by giving the D sound to try and elicit the word Monday. So I go mun, duh. It's like the kid's not saying day right off the bat. And then, oh, great job, Monday. Let's try the next one, Tuesday. And then hopefully they'll say day. But if not, start off with the first sound, a duh. What comes after that duh sound? And then so review all of those. And then when we get to Saturday, once again, since that one's a little bit different, most likely we'll have to do the wait and see method and build up. All right, so now we come to Saturday. So let's see if we can figure this one out. So I'm going to start off with the first syllable and give you sat. And then can you come up with the next 2 syllables? And then use the wait and see method. And if needed, the phonemic cue to elicit that. And then hopefully that helps the student develop a better understanding of syllables. We're now going to take a few minutes to look at the symbolic readers. Around ages 5 to 7, they're emerging as readers now, and help them with developing awareness. And at their age group, they're going to start understanding and learn about jargon, figurative language, such as similes, metaphors, that kind of thing. And then phonemes to distinguish, blend, segment, and manipulate them. And then spoonerisms, which are just fun. It's where, like the first syllable of one word, you accidentally mix with the second syllable of the next word. And anyway, we'll look at that here in a minute. So if I were teaching an early symbolic reader all the various types of figurative language, instead of teaching the associated jargon, well, the word sick is actually a dual meaning word because sick means someone's physically sick, or some people view it as another way to say cool, which I guess that means I'm old because I have a hard time thinking of sick as cool. Anyway, I wouldn't want to bog down the child with the jargon. Instead, I would just provide examples and then help the child kind of learn through that. So if I were teaching an early symbolic reader all the various types of figurative language, once the kids start reaching first grade, and then of course beyond, they start developing a greater understanding of figurative language. And then, for example, dual meaning words, they start realizing that, wait a minute, this word is the same in this sentence as it is in that sentence, but it has a completely different meaning. So they start understanding that, along with proverbs and idioms, all which make for a lot of fun lesson plans. And then on the left here, I have a painting by Ocampos, who's a fantastic artist, Mexican artist, where he combines two visuals within one. So that's kind of my visual representation of dual meaning. In order to help understand some figurative language, I chose preparatory sets and then the close procedure for the scaffolding methods. They go hand in hand really well. The preparatory set prepares the listener for what it is that they're going to answer. So it's setting the scene. It gives all the background information. You set it up. It's about this creature. He's from here. He's this big, yada, yada, yada. And then you ask some kind of question that relates to what you just described. And then follow that up with a close procedure where you ask some questions. Basically, they're fill in the blank questions, but it's really important to try and put those questions just slightly ahead of the child's current abilities to challenge him or her a bit more. Okay. I am here with my daughter Sky, who is 8 years old and very familiar with the very hungry caterpillar. So, Sky, when we look at this picture here of a super big, enormously fat caterpillar, does he look like he's pretty well fed, or does he look like he's starving?
He honestly looks like he just went to a party.
A party? All right, I can see that. He's got all the colors going. Looks like he's ready. He's definitely not hungry. So, when we talk about a book, when we talk about a story, and I want to say something like, oh, well, that was just as clear as mud. Do you think that meant that I understood what happened, or it was all murky and difficult to understand?
Murky and difficult.
Yeah, so that's what we call simile. We can kind of compare two items. So when we look at the caterpillar here, what would you compare him to? If I said the caterpillar is as big as a
Pine cone.
As a pine cone. Oh, fantastic, because even has a shape. Very good job. I like that. All right. Then we have our metaphors, which is another way basically to paint a picture of what you're describing and make it kind of interesting. So if we say someone's an angel, she was an angel. Do you think she's a really nice person, or is she a horrible person?
She is a very nice person if she is an angel.
Okay, so following that kind of thought process, what would you compare a caterpillar to?
I would compare it to a gummy worm.
A gummy worm, I like that. I can see a lot of similarities between them. Okay, very good. All right, then we have idioms, and this is kind of, you can describe things, another fun way to describe.
Is an idiom an idiot?
No, although they are very close. Okay, so how about, give you this, I'll give you an example for that. The wind howled. Can wind howl? Is it like a dog that can make sounds?
No, but like whenever the wind howls, I think it's like a breeze, a really heavy breeze coming through.
Ah, exactly. So even though the wind can't actually howl, by using that word, you got exactly what they're trying to say, that the wind's going through. So let's say, what kind of sound would you compare a hungry stomach to?
Well, I don't really know how to say this, but
That works. Very good job. I bet that fits. Okay, and then our last one here is dual meaning. So sometimes a word can be used in two different ways, which I'm sure you've seen quite a bit. Okay, so I have these two examples using the word sick. That caterpillar has to be sick after eating so much. And then I have, oh, that caterpillar is sick. All right, do you think sick has the same meaning in both of those sentences?
no.
No. What in the first one? That caterpillar has to be sick after eating so much.
His son probably was eating so much.
Exactly. And then how about the last one? The caterpillar is sick, man.
Cool.
He's cool. All right, good job. So sometimes there's words with dual meaning that kind of adds to it. So thank you for all your help today, Sky. And have a good one.
Bye,
Okay, the manipulation of phonemes is the last area I'm going to target for the symbolic readers. And the two methods I chose were relational terms and then intentionally providing an incorrect answer. So with relational terms, the key to this is prompting them for new information to create a discussion and give them kind of the freedom to elaborate beyond what is already written down. And then intentionally incorrect, that is when you present something as though it's fact, which gives the child a fantastic opportunity to jump in and say, oh, wait a minute, no, it really happened like this. And then spoonerisms, I thought I would include that in the definition here because I have to admit I had no idea what they were, even though I very often do them. And spoonerisms is when you accidentally mix two words together, where you take one syllable from the other and blend them and switch them around, and you'll see here in the next slide. Okay, in order to help the kiddos understand the manipulation of phonemes, I took the spoonerism of the very hungry caterpillar and created the very keckery hunger pillar, which I think this leads really well into an intentionally incorrect approach of bringing attention to the sounds being switched around there. I suspect most kids, if you start off saying, well, the very keckery hunger pillar, they'll probably stop you and go, oh, wait a minute, that's not right. So that gives you a great opening to kind of discuss the difference between the words, how the sounds have been mixed together, how the phonemes can be manipulated and moved around. And then this also leads into relational terms. I could have the child, for example, we can discuss the very hungry caterpillar, and then we can compare him to the keckery hunger pillar and find out what the student thinks a keckery hunger pillar might look like, what it might like to eat instead, and kind of extrapolate from that point. All right, and that ends this little discussion on phonological awareness.